control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the Paranormal Portal. And a special thank you to the Freaky Friday crew. Excellent show. I always really enjoy sitting back and listening to them as I'm prepping for my own show. It's like, it's just entertaining as hell. That's the best way I can put it. It's the variety, the differing viewpoints, the information. It's just awesome. So thank you guys. I appreciate you throwing it over to me. And again, it's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best here. But welcome to the show. If you're new to the portal, this is the Paranormal Portal, our forum for all things paranormal. And I'm checking on my screens around me. I got 4 of them and trying to make sure everything is working as it should be. If you're familiar with the show, of course, you may expect our good friend and co-host Don Longbeard, but he hasn't been able to make it for these Friday sessions, so you're just stuck with me. But I did catch the news that we have a new host joining us following the portal. So after the portal, make sure to stick around, of course, for Nikki Colombo, whose new show will be debuting apparently right after the portal tonight. So very exciting. And then stick around, of course, after that for Jimmy Jean Into the Microcosm coming up here on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And to all my listeners on YouTube, welcome. Oh, thank you, Lucky. I've got to remember one of these days to mute my notifications because they get immortalized into every broadcast, and I'm unfortunately quite forgetful. So it's just a freak of my own genetics, I guess. But thank you, Lucky. I appreciate that, and wonderful. And yeah, the sound quality is absolutely pristine. I'm really happy with that. So a lot of times on the portal, and I think it's probably suspect to the connection in the small northern town in the panhandle of North Idaho. It's fast internet, but unfortunately, I think they just repurposed telegraph lines up here when the internet came in, because it can be just noisy as hell. It just sounds like I'm sitting next to a waterfall, and doesn't seem to be much I can do with it. But tonight it sounds wonderful, so I'm absolutely thrilled with that. I just got to turn up my earphones a little bit here. So hope you guys are doing great. Welcome to Friday. You have made it. This is the beginning of your weekend, and I hope you've got a great weekend ahead of you. Of course, the Paranormal Portal will return again tomorrow night at the same time, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And Don, of course, will be joining me, and we'll have another hopefully wonderful show waiting for you then. But tonight I want to get into the poltergeist phenomenon. As it gets closer to Halloween, it's Halloween all year round on the portal, really. I mean, there's not any one time where it's better to talk about the paranormal than others, as far as I'm concerned personally. But I might be a little biased. But we're all kind of into that mood, and I think everybody is feeling the shift in energy. And I've been feeling it this whole year and into late last year, that we're just something is changing, something extraordinary is going on, and we are a part of it. And historically, I would always feel this charge growing around this year, and with the energetic trend that we're in, I think, as a global society anyway, coupled with the natural thinning of the barrier between this world and the other world or other worlds. I find it's just an absolutely electric time, and I love Halloween time anyway. I mean, it's one of my favorites of all the holidays. I don't care as much for the weather, but I really dig the idea of the decorations and stuff. I think are really cool, but it's just my love of the paranormal, I guess. But I think it resonates quite a bit with a lot of us. There's such a culture and heritage to the celebration of Halloween in all of its forms, from the Samhain celebrations, to other pagan holidays and all the different repurposings thereof. But I hope you guys are doing great. I'm noticing the feed looks kind of weak tonight. I don't know why. I'm looking at my stream indicator, and it's unfortunately it's red. So I hope we don't have problems. I don't know why it's having trouble, but if you're listening on YouTube, you might be having an issue with the connection, and I do apologize. I'm going to try to close as much stuff here as I can to see if that'll help. I don't know what's going on exactly with that, but I'll do the best I can, and hopefully it'll just spring back to life, and it does tend to throttle up and down, and maybe I irritated the internet gods up here in the north of Idaho with my repurposed telegraph line, which is possible. But let me just see if I can look into something else that might be going on. I had to restart my router just previously, and I'm not sure if that didn't clear it up. Apparently it didn't, so I just sent a message to the missus downstairs to see what she's doing. And my minion, of course, who loves to watch YouTube Kids on his little tablet. So I do apologize if that's bad, but apparently everybody's hearing us. And thank you, Dub C, and all you guys on TFR. I appreciate you guys being here. It's just a packed house. And I definitely owe that to, I think this new time slot has just been amazing for the show. And I've gotten the opportunity to meet a lot of new listeners, which is excellent. And I don't have the time to go through and name you all by name, but thank you so much, all of you guys on the TFR chat room, for being here. And for those of you on YouTube as well, there's quite a few of you pouring in there. If you would like to be a part of the show, and you have something you would like to share about a paranormal experience of your own, please feel free to call in. It's 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. And if you're hearing the sound of my voice and you're not seeing me, that's because you're not on our YouTube channel. You can also watch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/Paranormal Portal, or you can listen to it on iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, on the Truth Frequency channel, rather, and on TFR Live as well. And there's a great chat room on TFR Live. If you go to tfrlive.com/chat, you can meet the people there. Just an amazing group of people, great conversations, both in YouTube and on TFR. So there's some options for you. You can call in, you can chat in, and if you want to email me a story of your own or an encounter of your own, please feel free to do that. You can email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So there's all kinds of ways for us to stay connected, which I think is absolutely important. And it looks like our bandwidth is gotten better, so I don't know if it's just an issue of Friday night on Northern Idaho internet. But here we go. I wanted to open the show with a listener email. Actually, it was a message they sent, and I thought it was a great story. And it's by a listener on YouTube named Sam Rodriguez, and she's been great and a real long-time supporter of our YouTube efforts. And so thank you, Sam, for sending this. And she posted it actually on the video. But we did a show about paranormal ghostly visitations by friends and loved ones. And if you missed it, you can check it out either on tfrlive.com/Paranormal Portal, or you can check it on our YouTube archives as well, youtube.com/Paranormal Portal. But she submitted a story of her own, and I thought it was pretty phenomenal. So I'm going to share that with you right now. And what she said is, my grandmother passed away back in 2007. She was diagnosed with cancer, and I can't remember what kind, and died not even 2 weeks later. Wow, that really doesn't give you much time to brace, does it? I'm sorry to hear that, Sam. But maybe that's a blessing. Anyway, My extended family lives on the East Coast, and unfortunately she passed the day before my mom, brother, and sister and I were due to fly out from Oregon to say our goodbyes. Thankfully, my dad caught a plane earlier that week, and I'm happy he got to share some of the last moments with her. My grandma simply couldn't fight it any longer, and she died in her bed with her priest right beside her. My family and I were staying at her and my grandfather's house for our trip. The night after the funeral, we all went to bed, and my mom said she got up to use the bathroom, and she left the bathroom door open because we were all asleep, and she didn't care that it was open. And when she was washing her hands, she saw a light coming from the corner of her vision, and when she looked, she saw my grandmother walk past the bathroom, bathed in some kind of ethereal kind of white light. Even though my mom knew it was my grandmother, it still scared the hell out of her, and she ran through the house and jumped back into bed with my dad. And since it isn't my story, I don't know the purpose or how this experience truly impacted on my mother, but it's a nice idea that my grandmother was checking up on us, or at least walking through her home one last time. And thank you so much, Sam, and I really appreciate it. And that's one of the beautiful things of doing a show like that, is hearing those stories. And I think that those kind of encounters, while they can be shocking, and the paranormal is, I mean, it's a highly charged event. When things happen, it's incredibly charged and energetic. But to me, it's a healing thing. I think it's a very healing thing to know that our loved ones are still there, that they're still present, and they're still involved with us, if only, or if primarily just on an energetic level, which is, fantastic. And I think that those kind of things can be very affirming for the rest of us that are left behind, and that no matter what you have for a belief, and, you're absolutely welcome to believe whatever it is you choose to, but I think part of being human is just having doubt. And I think we all experience that. It's like, what if? What if there's nothing left? What if it sucks? What if all these things? And so to have those kind of peeks through the veil, to see someone that you love so dearly and was such an important part of your life, to me, it's just so powerful. And it's certainly, in all the stories we covered, and we cover several on the show that deal with loved ones passing, it seems that those encounters are quite cathartic, as Don says. I love that word. It's just, it sounds so cool. But cathartic, it's just a very healing and powerful experience to keep you going forward and to help you pull it all back together. So very cool, Sam, and thank you so much again for submitting that. And if you have a story of your own, ladies and gentlemen, please email it to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I'd love to share them on the show. And if you want to be named, just let me know. If it's okay to say who you are. If you'd rather remain anonymous, that's absolutely fine too. It's not important that I, call you out, or, you don't need to feel threatened by that. I just think these stories are incredibly powerful. And stories from you guys are to me the most powerful. And I've said it a million times on the show, but they're your experiences. This is what you've seen. This is what you've experienced. And I can't think of a better thing to share for the show. So tonight, again, is Poltergeists. And Poltergeists, again, essentially they're called poltergeist, which is a Germanic phrase or derivative. And it's a noisy ghost. It's a very active kind of haunting. And the these terms get thrown around a lot. For most people, it's like, oh, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. It's a ghost. Well, there's lots of different things that may qualify as a ghost, and there's lots of different types of haunts and hauntings, and one of which, to recap, and many of the regular listeners, this is going to be preaching to the choir, but there's two main types of hauntings. One is residual, and the other is an intelligent haunt. Now, a residual haunt is when there's an energetic impression left behind for whatever reason. Sometimes it can be trauma. Sometimes it can be a highly charged emotion like some sorrow or anger or grief or emptiness, just a longing. And other times it can just be that, there was just a lot of love. And so these residual haunts are, they are just events that replay over and over and over, like a recording, like a record. or an MP3 on repeat. It just, there isn't an intelligent reason for it to happen. Just something environmentally will re-trigger this energetic imprint to repeat itself. And this could be, you hear about many hauntings where there's an apparition that stands, for hours in, the dark of night staring out a window. That could be an imprint from somebody standing there during their life. And that's just an echo, whether it's time, reality, whatever. It's an echo that repeats and repeats. And so they don't ever seem, residual haunts don't seem to have any kind of interaction with people being present. They're just events. They might just be the footsteps going down the hall at the same time every night for 1 week out of the year. There's no reason to know why it happens then, but it does. And, there's millions of those stories out there of these, ghostly footprints or, sounds, smells. And, sometimes those can be intelligent and sometimes they cannot. Now, an intelligent haunt is actual interaction with people there. Whereas the spirits or entities or beings, whatever you want to call them, are interacting or acknowledging or directing activity towards the living in that environment. It may be you just took a drink of coffee and you put your cup down and it moves. Oh, yeah, that's somebody was definitely wanting you to notice this. There's things moving, doors opening and closing, interacting really to create sometimes fear, sometimes just to create awareness, sometimes, for whatever the reasons. It can be an apparition appearing and staring right at you, whereas a residual would be an apparition appearing and walking through and doesn't seem to acknowledge anything around it, and that pattern repeats. An intelligent haunting would be the apparition appears, looks at you and smiles, or looks at you and scowls, or, whatever the case is. So those are the two main types of haunts. Now, a poltergeist haunting is a type of intelligent haunt, but it's supercharged. It's like an absolutely extraordinarily energetic event. Whereas hauntings can be really intimidating, a poltergeist experience is absolutely like off the charts kind of energy. There will be lots of activity, lots of things going on, but generally a poltergeist experience is directed towards a person. It's one person. And most often that person is a young teen or pubescent girl. I don't know why, I'm not sure, but there's two main schools of thoughts with poltergeists. They are manifest by the living, that they are a projection of psychic energy or of some kind. And it can be due to trauma, it can be due to psychology, a psychological issue, or whatever. And so these living people could be projecting these things into their reality. And it could be just some part of themselves that they haven't acknowledged, and it basically is such a barrier and wall that they push this thing into existence. And, whether they continue on as their own sentient being or not, who really knows? There's lots of theories about that. But the other idea is that they aren't a projection of a person, but they are still attacking a person or focusing on a person. And there's a soundbite we play in the second hour, the intro to the second hour of the show, and it's sound bites from the movie Poltergeist. And it's actually quite accurate in that, they say that hauntings can, poltergeist haunts can last from days to months, but hauntings can go on for years or years and years. So, that's quite a bit of difference, but the energetic level of a poltergeist haunt is just off the charts. And it might be hard to differentiate a poltergeist, a really acute poltergeist situation, and a demonic attack or something of that nefarious nature because of the energy level, because of the veracity of the attacks. But I've talked to a few investigators, and they basically say that with demon attacks, the demons may target one person, but they're going to attack everything around them. They just don't care. They just hate. They're just so angry and hateful that they attack everything near them. But poltergeist seems to, while it may affect a whole bunch of people, it is definitely targeting one person. So there gets to be a lot of gray areas, and there's a lot of overlaps in the paranormal. And I just had this discussion with some commenter online about that. I think he was talking about Bigfoot or something of the sort, and whether it was a spiritual being or a physical thing, and on and on and on. But the thing with the paranormal is that it's a lot of theories, it's a lot of ideas. So there is no one answer. It's not a science in the traditional sense. It's a lot of people, being researchers and enthusiasts and investigators that are throwing a lot of ideas out there, and some of them may be right, maybe all of them are kind of right. But unfortunately, the paranormal doesn't lend itself to real rigorous studies, so it's tough to dial in. So you get a lot of stuff in the paranormal, and it's hard to to understand for sure what's going on. But we're going to get into poltergeist stories tonight, and see what you guys think. We'll see what you think. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of changes coming up with the portal. I've got some ideas, and was having a meeting with Don today discussing some of those, and I think it's going to be really exciting. So just so you know, hopefully it'll be a good change. I don't know. Change is good, right? Insert laughter. So anyway, let's get to these accounts, if you will. All right. I lived in a second floor flat with both my parents, and when we first moved in, a neighbor told us that we shouldn't move in there. That flat was used for constant parties and using a Ouija board. All right, there's as Sean says, and I have to agree with him. You never hear they used the Ouija board and then these wonderful things started happening. It's just something you don't hear. It's the Ouija board is something that, unless you're absolutely sure you know what you're doing, stay the hell away from them. Because again, we did a show with Sean and Joel on recently, and that actually came up. And my opinion of the Ouija board is it's a blind channel. You're a blind channel when you're using them. You're opening yourself up to something. You don't necessarily know what it is. Now, there's proper ways to use them, and I'm not trying to demonize the Ouija board. I think it's a tool, and I think it can be used very responsibly and productively, but there's a lot of people really irresponsibly using them and using them wrong. And my opinion is, if you don't know how to shut a portal, you have no business opening it. So, all right. So, Ouija boards are definitely a part of this story. My dad did not take any notice to the neighbor at the time, and I was about 12 years old. 3 nights after we moved in, it started. We had a plastic runner in the hallway to protect the carpeting. That's got to come out of the 70s. My God, those things were horrible. We all just had gone to bed when we heard something running up and down the hallway on the runner. My dad jumped up and he turned on the lights and it stopped. My dad thought someone broke in and he checked the flat and there was nothing. It was just us. He turned the light back off and I went to sleep in my mom and dad's room, and 10 minutes later, something was running madly up and down the hallway again. Excuse me. My dad jumped up and ran to the hallway. The running noise stopped. My dad was now standing in the bedroom doorway, and he swore and shouted for this thing to just go away, which made it angry because we heard the kitchen cupboards opening and slamming shut and our thick mahogany chairs sliding all over the kitchen floors, and my mom started screaming in a state of shock. My dad turned on the lights, and the cupboards stopped banging, and the chairs stopped moving, and when my dad went to the kitchen, all the cupboards were open, and the chairs were in the middle of the kitchen. We had years of this, which is really unusual for a poltergeist. My dad was the first one to see the spirits, and I was the second to see them. And there were 2 of them, and my mom only heard them and never saw them, which was a good thing, because if she did, she would have had a heart failure. The one that haunted me the most wore a black robe with a hood and no face. He had big hands like shovels and wore a big ruby ring. He was 7 feet high, and his shoulders were wider than the doorway. He looked like the Grim Reaper. The other spirit wore a white robe and was the same size as the other one and had a white truffle around the neck. We heard voices that would argue, and one was telling the other one, "You've had your fun. It's time for you to go now." My mom was a bag of nerves, and she went to the vicar, and they sent people to see if we were mad or if it was absolutely real. One day after, they gave the go-ahead for an exorcism. I'm now 30 and live in my own house, and the other week, my son came screaming down the stairs saying he saw a man in his room. And when he described it, I knew who it was. My son is 10 and scared to go upstairs by himself. I swear it's punishing me. It made my life hell for years. But I've got used to it. I thought the exorcism got rid of it, but now my son has seen it, and it hasn't heard, and I know he hasn't heard me talk about it because I don't. It's my secret. Whenever you hear about exorcisms, a lot of people believe that you have an exorcism and then it's just done. Whatever's happened, it's been, in the case of, Christian exorcism, it's, sending it back to hell or pushing it out and sending it back to the pit and binding it with, the Holy Spirit and casting it away back to where it came. The thing with exorcisms is that there are many times when exorcisms don't work. And there are many times when they work, but the problems can resurface. And it's kind of one of those things that nobody knows. Nobody knows if the exorcism is the answer or if they're going to be repeating that or having to do other things as well. There's no guarantees. And part of the reason I think that this may be problematic, and this is my own belief, ladies and gentlemen, so I don't pretend to be speaking fact to you, but this is what occurs to me, is that whenever somebody does a ritual, I'm going to be able to get into this, but whenever somebody does a ritual, you're dealing with their belief system and their purity and their conviction. And there are people wearing religious garbs that have no business doing it, but are exercising religious practice. So, come to your own conclusions, but that occurs to me when you think of things that don't quite work, especially exorcisms. And it could be just the issue that the person isn't capable of doing a complete exorcism because they don't have the spiritual purity or bright or light or whatever you want to call it. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, our first half hour is all wrapped up, but we're going to take a break, and we'll be back for the second half hour in just a couple minutes. Don't go away, because I'll be taking attendance.
are listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second half hour of our show. This is the Paranormal Portal, and I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of what I do. And I'm doing it as well as I know how. So you got that going for you. And let's see, just checking. Just checking out some of the chats. Oh, you guys are awesome. I love you all. It's amazing. And I'm absolutely humbled. Humbled to sit here and see all the fine things being said. Thank you guys for being here and being a part of it. Tonight we are covering Poltergeists here on the Portal. And while that story that I just read it seemed pretty charged and energetic, but it's hard to know. I mean, those kind of things, a true poltergeist situation, you don't see them actually, encountered very much. Or if people are encountering, they aren't submitting their stories a whole lot for review. And a lot of people believe they're dealing with a poltergeist when in fact it seems more like a haunt. Now, the activity in that last story was pretty profound, but it seemed less poltergeisty and just more aggressive spirit. I don't know. Again, it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. It's kind of a gray area, but I'm trying to talk to you about Poltergeist tonight. And getting back to what I was saying before break, I want to quantify that a little bit more in dealing with exorcisms or cleansings or anything like that. Essentially, it all breaks down to the universal law that energy follows intention. And that energy is going to be projected based upon the ability of the person. And I'm hoping this makes sense because... How do I best quantify this? For instance, again, getting back to what I was saying before the break, a religious person has to be absolutely defined and absolutely clear and precise and crystal, just emanating light in their faith in order to successfully exercise a spirit. It's not a matter of the words by themselves. It's not, because if that was the case, then people would be getting cursed and blessed literally all the time just by the act of words. Now, words are powerful, and it's the first real representation of manifestation in our reality from a spiritual reality of thought or energetic reality of thought. So words are incredibly powerful, but we all have varying degrees of light. We all have varying degrees of ability to project energy. Everybody does it all the time. We are all energetic in our very nature, but in order to cast out another energy or entity or spirit, you are having to manifest your will and in the form of energy, and it's coupled with and projected by faith. It's projected by the level of your intention, the belief in yourself, and also the clarity of your soul. I mean, the ability of your soul to push out. So everybody has varying levels, and of course there isn't just one level of ghostly being. I mean, they're not just this one level. It's not like a mouse. Every mouse is about the same size and has the same patterns and can be gotten rid of using the same trapping techniques. It's not so concise and easy in terms of esoteric things. there's many different levels of esoteric and energetic beings. There's everything from, small little things to, enormous things that exist energetically within the realm, our dimensions. I guess is how best I can explain it, what I believe anyway. And so being able to project your will against something like that, coupled by your faith, is a strong thing. I'm not discounting faith. I'm not discounting religious practice as a defense. It is. And it's going to be absolutely as powerful as you believe it is. It has an intrinsic ability and power of its own based upon the fact that people are projecting these same thoughts and ideas and practices all over the globe. So they do have an inherent ability and power within them. But you have to be able to tap into that with your energy and push it out. And so that's what I'm trying to get to with, in terms of exorcisms being successful or not being successful. And so you're dealing with many variables. You're dealing with the person doing the ritual and the energy level of the thing you're trying to push out. So that's my 2 cents on it, and you guys will have to, weigh in on what you think of that. But I really, truly believe that there's something to that. And it's, it's the same way for any manifestation. Some people are going to be way more adept at manifesting than others, and it's not a measure of value or achievement. It's just a measure of how much energy you can push into the world, into your life. So I'm kind of spiderwebbing, and I'm sorry about that, but these ideas I think are go hand in hand, and that's why I think the portal fits in so well on TFR, because we have so many enlightened people talking about incredibly energetic and esoteric ideas about development and about conquering your illusions, conquering the matrix, conquering yourself, and realizing yourself. And by realizing, I'm not just saying a self-awareness. I'm talking about making yourself real in the truth, not in illusions, not in paradigms of this world. And so realizing yourself is breaking through the illusions. And so it's a very, very powerful word. So do try to realize yourself. So anyway, I'll try to get off my soapbox. I'm sorry, I don't mean to preach. That's not ever the nature of the show. And I don't try to insert myself a whole lot, because I'm not here to shape anybody's beliefs. You believe what you want to believe, but just believe it with your whole heart. Believe it with all the convictions of your soul, and it will be incredibly powerful. So, all right, moving along. Now, some of these are just as I'm browsing through them as I'm talking, they seem to be more just general hauntings. But we'll go through them and we'll discuss as we cover these and see what you guys think. But the call-in board, ladies and gentlemen, is open. And again, the numbers are 213-233-3998, 213-233-3998, or 833-TFR-LIVE if you need a toll-free access. All right, continuing on. Our next story is from the wonderful land of New York. In tonight's story, no, I'm just kidding. All right, let me see. I want to get past the fluffy part of this and get right to the meat. You got to go right for the jugular on these things. All right. Okay, a couple of things have happened to me that seemed rather strange, all of which happened in the past few years. About 6 years ago, I was lying on my bed sleeping when I woke up and sat up straight. It was between 2 and 2:30 a.m., and I didn't even feel sleepy. I was wide awake. I used to sleep in the attic. I don't know, attics never work out real well, it doesn't seem. And the strange thing is that of all the places for my eyes to fall on, it was a candle holder on top of my TV that did it. It seemed as though my eyes were drawn to it for some reason. It was a bowl-like shape with cutout shapes on the sides, so that when a candle is placed inside, the light comes out in the shape patterns. So it projects patterns on the wall, I think is what the person's trying to say. Excuse me. God, I'm froggy. It was silver in color, and there was a window just behind me, and my curtains were light and translucent, so some light came through from the street light outside, and after looking at the seemingly normal candle holder for about 15 seconds, I was amazed. I was amazed. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I was amazed because the fact that it was spinning on its own, or the beautiful light show it provided with the reflected light. Either way, I stared at it for what felt like about 5 minutes, which was a long time to be staring at a candle holder at 2 something in the morning. But eventually I finally laid back down and went back to sleep. This continued to happen for about 5 or 6 days, and every time I would wake up, and my eyes would always automatically fall on that candle holder. No matter which way I was sleeping, God, there's a bug that's been crawling all over my mic all night. Come on now, off. Sorry, didn't mean to. I hope you aren't wearing headphones out there. But let's see, where the hell was I now? He was like crawling towards my lips, and that wasn't going to happen tonight on the show, ladies and gentlemen. That's not the kind of entertainment I like to provide. All right. Okay. He said this continued to happen about 5 or 6 days. Every time I'd wake up and my eyes would just automatically come to the candle holder, no matter which way I was sleeping. It wasn't as if I was looking for it. It was as if it was just drawing me in, and I was never scared. I looked at it every night for about 3 to 5 minutes and then went back to bed. And the last time I saw it, I did get scared. However, I remembered that night I wanted to be sure that what I think I was seeing was actually what was happening. And I sat up straight, looking at it. Before this, I never really focused on it. I just looked. But this time I wanted proof. I tried to zoom in as much as possible without getting out of my bed. And it was only after a few minutes that I realized that the holder was not just spinning, but floating about 2 inches above the TV. And this is when I was scared out of my mind, and I slammed back down on the bed and tried to sleep. How do you do that? How do you go from an absolutely terrified state to, I'm just going to go back to sleep? That is one determined sleeper. All right, the next night I woke up at night again around the same time, and this time I awoke frightened and shaken. I didn't want to move for fear of seeing the candle move again. So I just lay there trembling until falling back asleep from exhaustion. So that is strange. Again, that doesn't really sound like a poltergeist kind of situation, just some kind of presence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, ghost presences are just, I believe, a fact of life. And I think that no matter where you are in the world, we are swimming in a world of spirits. It's just the way it is. And here's the thing to remember. Our awareness is very limited. We can only see a certain spectrum of light. We can only hear a certain spectrum of sound, and et cetera, et cetera. So all these other lights and sounds exist just out of our awareness. So what is going on? How many things are going on that we just aren't able to physically perceive? How many things are going on? Are there whole worlds and universes going on that are occurring right in front of our face and in reality as we know it, but we're just not able to see it? And is that what a lot of these spiritual things are? Is that what a lot of these ghostly experiences are? Is these other things? They could be as physical as you and I, but they're just walking around and happen to be able to pass through what is physical for us because they can, they're vibrating at a little bit different frequency. They can pass through and move things and, freak people out. Perhaps it's entertainment. I don't know. But, I think that we all have spiritual things happening to us and paranormal things happening around us at all the time. It's just sometimes it just takes a lot to get through to through our illusions, through our filters, and sometimes it takes a really profound event, like they perhaps are trying to get their attention for a long time, and finally are able to break through by doing something absolutely dramatic because all the subtle things never worked. A lot of times spirits just want to be acknowledged. They're there. They're there in your space. They're there in the same place where you are. And sometimes many people believe that some of these spirits are just people stuck in a death state. They don't know what happened, but they don't understand why nobody's talking to them anymore. Why doesn't anybody, listen to them? Why doesn't anybody look at them? They don't understand. So they just want to be acknowledged. Like that is affirming to them, and that's perhaps true. I don't know, but again, a lot of these things aren't really negative in and of themselves. and I guess it depends on your paradigm. Many people would say that any kind of spiritual presence could be negative, and there are many that would say, no, it's just, and I'm among this group, that it's just a part of the full nature of our reality. So whatever you happen to believe, I don't tend to think it's a horrible thing at all, and I think that they're always there. So acknowledging, hi, so you're there. Hey, you can share this space, but A, B, C, D, E. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't scare me. If I'm ever naked, stay away. That kind of stuff. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. But, it's not unusual. It's not unusual. I had the vision of the Carlton in my head. Oh, God. All right, let's get to another one. I'm trying to find, one that I would definitely can say that it's probably a poltergeist, but it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to differentiate, and again, here again, a lot of these people believe they're having poltergeist activity because they think that if anything moves, it must be a poltergeist. Like it is a very profound spiritual thing. Now, here's the other thing. If you look on YouTube, you can see a 1,000 examples of poltergeist activity. And I'm not disparaging anybody, but I don't believe that 99% of those are real at all. I mean, I don't believe that there may be a fraction of 1% of what you see on YouTube that's actually real. There's so many people out there, and there's actually how-to videos to fake your own poltergeist activity, how to move things off screen, how to, set up your scene, et cetera, et cetera. So, and some people find value in creating those hoaxes and stuff, and it's frustrating because a lot of people are interested in the phenomenon. They want to understand and they want to see examples of it, and they're, instead they're stuck with, a bunch of creative people trying to, get their 5 minutes for whatever reason. And that's just the reality of our modern era, I guess. But most of what you're seeing online is a lot of people creatively setting up a scene, and it's what I like to call the orgy of evidence. That's a term that's used in homicide investigating, and it's when something's been set up to appear somewhere where everything is just too easy. It's just too easy. Now, there's people investigating the paranormal that have been doing it for years and years and years and haven't so much as seen a ball move. They haven't so much other than, perhaps they got an EVPs, perhaps they've seen, EMF detectors act funny, but they've never seen a physical manifestation. But then you got these guys on YouTube setting up a camera in their kitchen and, crap is flying everywhere. Well, why isn't there universities in there setting up? If they've got that much repeated activity, then there's some profound energy going on there that should be studied. And clearly they have a repeating phenomenon. So there should be people there researching it, as far as actual, scientists and researchers of a high caliber, paranormal parapsychologists and such. But they don't. They just have these videos, this chains of videos that are out there with absolutely no corroboration other than they set their camera up and look what broke now. So, and that's unfortunate. It really is. Because there are, as I alluded to before, there's a lot of people that are spending their lives, dedicating their lives, their own resources, their own time and energy and passion to research the phenomena, and then you've got hundreds and thousands of people out there just creating hoaxes for the sake of their recognition. And it is what it is, I guess. But don't use YouTube as a as a guide for finding a lot of really great material. They're entertaining. Don't get me wrong; they're entertaining to watch, but they aren't truly representative of actual phenomena. And the ghost hunting shows on TV, I think I think there are really poorly done ones, and there are fakey ghost shows as well. Maybe even more than I want to admit. But the nice thing about those shows, and the nice thing about all of it, even the hoaxers, is that at least they're creating an opportunity for people to have the discussions. Whereas, for generations and almost all of recorded history, talking about ghosts was kind of, if you said you saw a ghost, people would be making you doctor's appointments. So it's nice that the dialogue can happen now without a whole lot of people casting aspersions and and trying to marginalize you into something being wrong. But anyway. All right, let's get to another one here. No, this one might be good. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't screen these before the show, not because I'm too lazy, but I like reading them with you. I like I don't want to. Let's see. I had stayed at my mom and dad's a lot of times, but now me and my dad are temporarily living in the house until we can get on our feet. Lately, I've been having a very strange and discomforting experiences. One night, I had put some polish on the tips of my nails, and in the morning, I woke up to find the name Ava carved into the polish on my nail. Another time, I was waiting in the living room, and I was the only one awake, and all of a sudden, it sounded like thunder was rolling down the hallway, and the chair started rocking for no reason. But no one else heard the loud noise. I'm the only one on my dad's side of the family who believes in ghosts, so I can't tell any of them this, but I can tell my mom. Another time I went to go out of the living room. Again, I was the only one up, and I saw Ava for the first time. I saw her full body, and she was wearing an orange gown trimmed with white lace. And all of the time I walk through the house and turn around, the shadow-like mist will be following me, but when I do turn around, it disappears. Another time, and one of the scariest, I was once again awake, the only one awake, in the kitchen, and I heard my name said in a very weird way, like, Kayla, come from the other end of the house. It sounded like a woman, but no one lives in that house. But apparently there's no other woman in the house. Okay. Here recently, me and my father were the only ones at the house, and he was in his room on the other side of the house, and I was again in the living room. Out of the corner of my eye, I kept seeing someone look straight at me, like right next to my face. And when I would turn that way, it would be gone. I got up to make sure it wasn't my dad just playing a trick on me, and nobody was there. She kept getting right up to my face and looking at me. Now, a lot of times, ladies and gentlemen, when hauntings start, apparently they start. A lot of people experience things out of the corner of their eye. Now, it may be an issue of an awakening of the pineal gland that, it's not able to be perceived straight ahead. Whenever you're surrounded by another energy like this, perhaps another energetic life form or being, they have to punch through your filters, your layers, your distractions. And they can't probably just appear in front of you. Perhaps they have to, in many cases, and this is a theory again, but many cases people report, I see shadows moving out of the corner of my eyes, and that's how it started. And then it started getting more and more, and I could see lights moving, and then I, started seeing the furniture move. So it seems to start more subtly for a lot of people, and perhaps that's the way the awareness of the energy takes place for these people. And perhaps spirits do it that way. I don't know. I mean, it's a common theme in testimonials of people that have experienced the paranormal, that the corner of the eye things seem to be indicative of paranormal activity beginning, or your awareness at least of them beginning. So definitely pay attention to that. Mishi in TFR chat said, Brent, don't do that creepy Kayla. Sorry about that. It was just me trying to creatively narrate. That's all. That's awesome. Well, thank you. I'll try not to. I think part of the fun of the show is just being a little spooked, right? And it is nearly Halloween, after all. All right. So again, I don't think that's a case of a poltergeist. I don't believe it is, but. Let's see. We got about 2 minutes. I need a short one. I need a short one before the break. This one is a short one. There we go. Over the last few months, strange things have been happening here. The first sign of something out of the ordinary was when I woke up one morning to find my bathroom door locked from the outside, with the inside being unlocked. My bedroom door, rather. So the bedroom door was locked on the outside, but the inside was unlocked. When I go to bed, it's the other way around. Is logically, I can't lock the door on the outside while I'm standing inside. I got home from work one night and the next week to discover this time that the door was locked on the inside and unlocked outside, completely opposite of how I left it. And now this. As I'm sitting here typing this, my dog is going berserk, barking, scratching, and sniffing at my bedroom door, where 2 hours ago, an unseen something or another slammed the door hard against my hand as I reached to turn the light off. Oh, that's creepy. I've only been living in this house for a little under 2 years, and my current room is for just over 2 months. My sister lived there the whole time before I moved my stuff in, and she says she never experienced anything unusual. Am I being targeted? And it sounds like you are. And that can be the case, ladies and gentlemen. Daryl says nothing's more spooky than the theme tune. Oh, I hope that's a compliment, Daryl. I wrote that. I hope that's a good thing. For poltergeists, it doesn't need to be an old house. It doesn't, well, actually for any kind of haunting, it doesn't need to be an old house with a lot of history. There's not always a reason. Sometimes it can be brand new places that get paranormal activity. And sometimes it can be dormant until a person shows up. Just some person for some reason. But we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, for the second hour of the show. Don't go away.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's
play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. Just make sure that you're well.
Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
They can go on for years. Hauntings can. You heard it there from the movie Poltergeist. Great, great movie. One of my personal favorites, actually. I'm not into horror movies, and you'd think being having such a love affair with the paranormal that I would be, but I don't know. You know, it's like, you know, horrible things happen in the field of the paranormal, and a lot of terrifying and scary things, of course, do. I've experienced a few hair-raising things myself, but you know, I just I don't know. Horror movies just, it's such gratuitous gore, and it's like, oh my God, do I really want to see all those people sliced and diced and cutting off their parts of themselves and, you know, being mutilated? Is, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's an entertainment, and I'm not begrudging anybody, you know, that loves watching them. That's cool, but it's just never been my thing. I don't know. They're just creepy to me. But that's my own deal. That's my own luggage right there, ladies and gentlemen. And it's just life. We all got our luggage. So anyway, tonight's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is Poltergeist. If you're just joining us or if you've been here, whatever the case. And thank you to all you guys in both chat rooms and TFR Live chat and on the Paranormal Portal chat on YouTube. You guys are awesome, and thank you for the great feedback. You know, I love doing the show. It's just such an incredible passion, and it's just such an incredible experience. And I thank you guys, because all of you guys are what make the show amazing. You know, I'm just here talking, but it's you guys that create the community and make it such a magical place. So thank you guys for being here and being a part of the Paranormal Portal family. I am just in awe of every one of you. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking part of your Friday and spending it with me here. That's just, or whatever. Maybe it's Saturday where you are. I don't know. I guess we're a global community here, aren't we? We got plenty of days represented. I don't know what day it is now. I can't remember. So anyway, all right, let's continue on here on the portal with our talk of poltergeists. But again, getting to what I was talking about before the break, it doesn't have to be a long history for hauntings or poltergeist. It doesn't have to be traumatic events. It can just be a person. A person can be haunted. A person can drag things around with them. It just depends on the binding. There's attachments, and they're not all demonic. You know, there's a large fallacy in the, you know, some people's paranormal opinions is that, you know, an attachment has to be demonic. Well, it can be dark without being demonic. There's, you know, demons are certainly, they don't have the market cornered on all things evil. They're certainly, you know, dark and evil beings, but I don't recall ever hearing of a friendly demon, but you know what I'm saying. There can be spirits that attach to people. Sometimes it's a loving attachment. Sometimes it's it's an obsessive attachment. Sometimes it's dark. Sometimes it's some kind of other attachment. Perhaps you just remind them of someone they knew and loved in life, and that is why they follow you. So I mean, there's lots of reasons. So if you ever notice that, no matter where you go, you seem to be attracting a lot of activity. It can be that you're dragging something around with you, or it can be that you have, The other idea is that you have latent psychic abilities, or you're very well aware of your psychic abilities, and therefore you act as a sort of beacon to these beings that, in some cases may be lost. They may be looking for the light, and they're seeing the light in you. And so it can be indicative of you having untapped abilities of your own that you need to explore and learn how to control, and learn how to control what's going on around you. So there's lots of things that can equate to paranormal activity. It doesn't have to be, this house had 15 murders, and it was a disease wing at one time of a hospital, or whatever the case. Now it's condos. By the way, that's one of the worst repurposings of buildings ever in the history of repurposing buildings, is to take an old hospital and make it condos. Because the energy that's attached there doesn't necessarily know that things have changed, or doesn't really have anywhere else to go. So you can change the wallpaper, you can change the paint, you can change the doors and change the locks, but unless you cleanse the energy, you still got whatever's been there for lots and lots of years accumulating. So just a word of advice. Check out the history of the place. But anyway, we're moving along. We're talking about Poltergeist tonight, and it's tough to draw the distinction. Apparently, a lot of people believe they're dealing with poltergeists, and some of these activities are pretty profound, like the door locking repeatedly. That, again, it is an energetic experience. It seems to have, and it was from Australia, and I'm not saying that matters, but the door locking and unlocking and locking and relocking and different locking, it's a profound activity, but does that indicate a poltergeist? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Now, it doesn't disqualify it either. Not every poltergeist experience is, like the movie Poltergeist. It's not. I mean, that's of course a Hollywoodization of paranormal events, and apparently there was grounds in true stories that accumulated into what became the Poltergeist movie. So apparently some of the setting and circumstances of that movie were based upon real events. And quite honestly, that's the case for a lot of horror movies, and it's no different for that movie. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll find an actual story of for sure poltergeist, and perhaps some of these are. But to me, I seem to feel like it's going to be very aggressive, lots of things moving, happening, noise, lots of interaction, and not quite what you see on YouTube, but somewhere in between. All right, so let's get to another one here and see what we see. Excuse me. Let me close that and open this. And away we go. All right. Okay, let's see. I live with my wife of 3 years, and we have 4 children that range from ages 9 to 16, 2 boys and 2 girls. We first moved to Marysville in August 2004, and we bought our home there right before the housing bubble popped. Ooh, that's a tough one. Excuse me. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and an add-on for less than $300,000. The house itself was built in 1976, and it was one of many homes built around the Beale Air Force Base, rather. Not Bel Air. Beale Air Force Base. 2 weeks after we moved in, we came home to have all of our kitchen table chairs stacked up on the table. That's creepy. Over the next few months, lights would go on and off, doors would open or shut for no reason. One event that stands out was when my wife was in the bedroom cleaning, and the TV turned itself on and off and on again. I saw this happen once as well, and we also have had our dog freak out and go barking at the air in the room. Scared and unwilling to leave a corner, our kitchen sink was filled with water on both sides once, scolding hot to the touch. Wow. Now this does sound like poltergeist activity. There you go. Ask and you shall receive, right? I woke up to go to the bathroom early in one morning and was dazing and was looking at the tiles on the floor by my feet when I noticed a woman in the shower doorway. I ran into the bedroom, and when we went back, nothing was there. Mostly lights go on and off. Music can be heard now and then. We can't move because we are negative on the value of our home, and now due to the market. And I went to make dinner one night, and all the stuff in the cupboard was upside down. That is really profound. Wow. We also have had our food spoil overnight, such as fruit left out and bread mold over. Plants don't live long in our home. Sometimes we hear tapping through our stereo or computer speakers. It's always the same repetitive sound. My 16-year-old has also seen a mist or hazy cloud in the upper corner of his room, and my 14-year-old daughter has heard things and as well as seen stuff. Though we try not to talk about it openly in front of our younger children, out of sight, out of mind, so to speak. We try to put it out of our minds most of the time, and it seems to have slowed down since we do that. But we still get the odd things here and there, or a flash or of something in the corner of our eyes. I felt something sit on the bed once, and it scared me big time. So nowadays, things spark up every few days, but it has been a while for anything big, knock on wood. Now, that is a profound story, and that I would say would be absolutely a poltergeist activity. There you go. I've been waiting for one of these to resonate like that, and this one definitely does. You're talking about lots of manifestations, lots of physical manipulations. There's the word I was looking for. It was just gone from my head. But, you know, it's a lot of activity, a lot of things going on all at once. The foods, all the things in the cupboards were upside down. That's an incredibly profound event. And, you know, it's probably, if that is indeed a poltergeist, then it's probably focused around one of the daughters more than not. But sometimes when you're in the throes of that kind of stuff, it's hard to know. And ladies and gentlemen, again, I agree with that wholeheartedly. One of the best early warning detectors of paranormal activity is definitely going to be a pet, a cat or a dog, perhaps birds as well, or hamsters. But these animals seem so much more in tune with these energies than we are, and perhaps we would be too. But you know, again, we live in our modern age. We live in this state of constant distraction and overstimulation of our senses, you know, from morning until night, and then we go to sleep and start all over again. So we're in this state of continual bombardment of our senses. So it's one of the reasons why, if you want to develop your abilities, you know, and Deb and I, Deb is our resident psychic here on the Paranormal and Portal, and comes on to do shows doing readings, but she says that, you know, one of the keys is meditating. And I think that has to do with, essentially, you have to clear your filters. You have to clear your senses in order to really get in touch with your psychic side. And, you know, we're sitting in our days and nights staring at some kind of lit screen for most of us. And if not, we're, you know, listening to music, jamming, you know, we're always pounding things into our physical senses. And it takes a lot for energetic things to push through all of that. But these kind of activities in this last story were absolutely profound. And I would say, you know, if this is indeed a true and actual factual account, and I have no way to know, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could say, hey, I know this guy and this is what happened for sure. I believe him. I talked to him. I don't. And I do, you know, I'm sorry, but, you know, I don't know the author of this, but I do know that, you know, it reads pretty well, and, you know, you got to come to your own conclusions on these things. But I do believe that if this is indeed accurate and factual, then they do have indeed encountered a poltergeist. I do think they're rare, though. I think they're not real common, and that's why it's really hard to find actual encounters of poltergeist activity, because, you know, haunting stuff is much more common. There's lots of reasons for haunts. There's lots of beings and presences that could be haunting. But I think the manifestation of a true poltergeist, whether it's from the people or an entity of its own that has that much energy, it's just extraordinarily rare. But great story. I like that one a lot. That one gets a star. I think that was great. All right, let's see. All right, that was the last one. Okay. I apparently I jumped around a little bit, so now I'm having to be careful because I seem to have stomped all over my storylines here. All right, my family loves to have soda. That's a great opener. I hate it when the kids throw it in the garbage, and so we have a big bag, or we have a bag to the door to, what? So we have a bag in the door to the basement, and they just throw soda in that. Excuse me. Well, one day, my family and I were done eating, and we heard a huge crash, and then a little push on the chairs, and we heard a soft breathing voice, and it got a lot colder. And I shouted, "Who's there?" First, I thought it was our cat, but it wasn't. We heard the soda can bag rattle, and then it sounded like it fell down the steps. I got up, and my kids followed me, and we looked down the steps, and all the soda, about 20 of them, were in a straight line. I picked them up and put them in the bag. After a long day at work, I sat down. This is like a commercial for soda here. After a long day at work, I sat down and had myself a Diet Cola. When I was done, I went to throw it away, but the bag was gone. That's not it. The soda cans that I picked up were still in that straight line at the bottom of the steps. We sold that house to a friend of mine, and she does not have a bag for the soda. But she told me that there was a strange soda line in the bottom of the steps. Her, as a single mom, heard one day someone walking upstairs. She has no pets, and her son was with the father. Very strange. Yeah, it is. That's pretty profound. Again, a lot of physical manipulation. I think that's one of the key elements to a paranormal encounter with a poltergeist. I think that much, and you have to think, ladies and gentlemen, the reason that I'm referring to that a lot in trying to ascertain whether these are poltergeists or not is that poltergeist stories seem to involve a lot of physical manipulation of items. Now, energetically speaking, that's incredibly hard for your normal spirits. It's hard because, well, the belief is that, they have to use their own energy for that. And maybe this is part of the criteria for poltergeist being attached to a person, is that we in these physical bodies are like, I believe that they generate energy for our spiritual presence to remain manifest here in this realm. And so the problem for spirits otherwise that are, perhaps just earthbound or in a confused state or whatever, is that they no longer have that energetic generation of a physical body. And that might be one of the reasons that they have to draw energy from the heat in the air, and you get things like cold spots, is that they are pulling in the energy of whatever is available around them. And so sometimes it can be a person in terms of attachments. Sometimes it can be just from the ambient heat in the air. They are believed to be able to absorb that heat. Sometimes it can be there are people that believe that things like devices that emit EMF fields, strong EMF fields, like maybe microwaves or whatever, can generate an energy that they can use. And a lot of times investigators will, of course, if you've watched paranormal shows on TV or talked to any paranormal investigator, a common theme that happens is batteries go dead. Boom, just dead. Fresh, brand new batteries. And that's one of the criteria for proper, investigating, is to always start with fresh batteries. You don't want to have a flashlight go out when you're in the, in a cellar somewhere surrounded by things that, you can crash into. It's not safe and it's creepy. But batteries will go dead, and it's believed that they can feed on that energy from those batteries and drain them. So, but the poltergeist energy just seems to be absolutely abundant, and they don't have much problem with doing these elaborate manipulations around them. And perhaps that's, one of the arguments for the manifestation from a living person, is that as long as they have that direct attachment to the person or the body the person is in, they can draw that energy all day long and do all kinds of crazy things. Just again, I on the show, I don't ever want to come across as an expert, because I'm not. I'm just an enthusiast. I'm a person that's been, absolutely fascinated and in love with the paranormal since as far back as I can remember. But I do think about this stuff a lot, and I consider myself an intelligent guy, I guess, So I don't know. With all of the things that I read, and it's also additionally spiderwebbing off a little bit, but it's one of the reasons I love your guys' stories, because you guys are explaining things that you've seen and you've observed, and oftentimes these stories come with little nuggets that I've never heard before. Something you noticed that maybe nobody else has noticed. And some detail that you submit in your stories I've never heard before. And it closes the gap on some ideas that are floating through my head. And it can be these aha moments like, wow, maybe that explains this or that. So I think, and as I read, stories online, but again, as I'm reading anything that I find online, I have to do it with a grain of salt, because I have no way to authenticate or I have no reason to believe that what I'm reading is necessarily true. You just got to kind of go with your gut, I guess. But when you guys submit stories, I always give you guys the benefit of that you're not wasting my time with fabrications, that the reason you're writing in is because you want to share something incredible. And many of you have, and I've absolutely loved your submissions as part of the show. So if you want to submit something for the show, to be read on air, or if you just want to submit something to me personally, feel free. But email paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Know what I'm saying? So let me just look here. I want to just check. Yeah, the stream health is still good. We're in good shape. There's no calls on the board. We're in great shape. I love when we're in good shape. All right. Let's see. We got about 4 minutes left. Let's see if we can find a quick one here. And before the next break, I want to leave you with a paranormal joke. I found the corniest paranormal jokes, and as dumb as they are, I just got to read them. They're just hilarious. So I'll read a few of those, and I'll probably close the show with a few as well, because I just think they're hilarious. And it's just me being easily amused. But what do I say? What can I say? All right. Yeah, this one's pretty short. It says, I live by myself for about 2 years, and I have a dog who likes to pull stuff around. I have a big bed with lots of covers, and I usually look forward to bedtime. But one night, I had nearly fallen asleep when the bed started to shake. Sammy, I shouted, and that's my dog's name. The shaking stopped. Then it came back, and I kept on calling Sammy as the night went on. The covers came off for me, and this time I was mad. Come here, Sammy, I shouted. And Sammy jumped up on the bed with me, and he licked me and curled up in a ball. Then the shaking came around an hour later. I sat up and looked around. It was midnight, but the shaking didn't stop. I still looked around. Sammy was on the bed. Who's there? I shouted. Then it stopped. I continued to call. Who's there? I finally laid down and tried to ignore the shaking, and then it stopped for about 15 minutes. I heard something fall in my closet, and I fell asleep later that night. I called the lady who sold me the house that same week. Oh, nice job. And this is her comment. My dear, I did not tell you. A 5-year-old kid died in the house. He loved to shake the bed and pull the covers. It drove the mother crazy, and also he would make stuff fall in the closets. So good luck with your new child. See you later. I'm going on vacation. I had the child in my house for a long time, yet not all nights does he show up, and I treat him nice, but lately he absolutely drives me nuts. Very wild, very, very wild. And I think that's not a poltergeist per se. It's an active presence, but not a poltergeist. All right, so now, all right, I gotta read a couple of these too. They crack me up, and it's dumb humor, but I just found them funny as hell. Oh shoot, not that. That wasn't it. That wasn't funny at all. I'm trying to find the jokes. I got about a billion tabs open. Okay, here we go. You guys ready? Here's the first joke of the night. And these are really, really child level, so forgive me. But again, they're cute. Why did the police officer let the ghost go? He couldn't pin anything on him. Oh, the next one. How do ghosts keep fit? They exercise regularly. I'm just so glad you guys can't throw tomatoes or anything. All right, the next one. Where does a ghost go on vacation? Malibu. And the last one before the break is, what is a ghost's favorite dessert? Blueberry pie. All right, there's the bell, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the little jokes. Oh, they crack me up. I don't know. All right, they gave me the hook. It's time to go to break. We got to pay the bills. We'll be right back in a couple minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a wonderful night. We have a half hour to go left here on the portal. It's gone really fast, and you guys have been wonderful. It's so funny. After those jokes on both chat rooms, two different people said, "Oh my God, paranormal dad jokes." That's awesome. That's just funny. But I know they're campy. I know they're stupid, but it's just, I don't know. They just crack me up. So I got to share them with you because that's what I do. They give me a mic, so I just keep filling it with noise. And you guys get to glean the benefit of that, but I am a dad, so it all works out. All right, so we are talking about Poltergeist tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, it's really tough to find a lot of detailed or I don't know, credible stories that are actual poltergeist encounters because they are so very rare. And it seems to be a very specific criteria that creates what is a poltergeist haunting, whether they are projected from a living person for whatever reason or whether they are their own entity that just attaches to a living person. I don't pretend to know, but both of those ideas are out there, and either one is just as potentially possible as the other. But again, it seems like it's such a specific criteria to create that, perfect storm, if you will, that it's hard to find a lot of information on them. But again, there's a lot of ideas out there about what they are and what's happening. A lot of times, just as we said many times, they aren't usually a long lasting type of haunting. And it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever's causing them has gone away, but perhaps they can only draw that type of energy for a very specific period of time. And perhaps that's why they don't last a lot longer. And maybe they continue to, be present, but they aren't able to extract that much energy to continually create that much havoc. And perhaps they're not intelligent at all. I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know. I'm just really not sure what to make of them. But again, all of the ideas about it are just as valid as anything else. Hell, it could all just be untapped psychokinetic powers of a person, and that's the manifestation. That's also a potential. Is it just a person doing it subconsciously? So it could be manifested entity from a person. Is it just manifested activity on a subconscious level that a person is capable of? Again, those are possible. I don't know. Lots of ideas, though, and that's what we're all about here on the portal, is discussing phenomenon and throwing around ideas. It's been real quiet, though. Let's see. Yep, nobody's called in. 213-233-3998 if you want to weigh in on this. 1/2 hour left to go, or actually 22 minutes left to go. But make sure to stick around after the show because, again, Nikki Colombo will be apparently starting her show tonight here following the Paranormal Portal, and that should be very exciting, really cool. It's always neat to see the lineup continue to evolve here on TFR. I mean, it's just such a gathering of incredible people on this network with incredible messages, incredible views, and ideas. So I see that the stream strength went to hell again. So I don't know what the hell's going on here. Not sure, but it's also been an issue lately here on the portal with just keeping the stream healthy. I'm not sure why, but there was one episode where we had Sean and Joel on, and we ended up losing the last 15 minutes of that episode. But the good news is that Don is putting together, to be about a 15-minute segment of that lost ending that's not available on YouTube. So keep watching for that. I'm very sorry that the stream chopped off. My connection went to hell for the stream only, and fortunately we were able to get the full recording on TFR Live. And that's always an option, ladies and gentlemen. If the YouTube stream ever goes to hell, just head over to tfrlive.com and you can listen live to us there. You won't get the you won't get the joy of watching me do the magic that it is that I do. I just made a stupid face there, but you know what I'm saying. But it is an option. There are several options to stay in touch with the show. So if one ever fails, just keep in mind that there are other ways to enjoy the portal, and all of TFR for that matter. So many of the hosts have multiple avenues for their shows to be heard. So continuing on, we are talking about Poltergeist here on the portal tonight. With just 20 minutes to go, let's get into a few more stories here. Sorry. The shaking bed thing was, I think, is pretty powerful. That, again, is a real strong manifestation. Again, I think that the child spirit doesn't necessarily qualify as an actual poltergeist, but I think people believe that if physical things happen, that means it's a poltergeist, and that's certainly not the case. Normal hauntings will have, if it's intelligent, will have interactions with the physical world around them as well. But I think it has to do with the frequency and the level of physical manipulation. Again, I'm just repeating myself, but I think that that's important to bear in mind, as that is the criteria, more so than just, hey, something fell in my closet and my bed shook a little bit. This one sounds pretty aggressive, so let's see what this one's going with. So this happened about, 5 or 6 years ago in my previous house, and I was laying in bed looking out into the upstairs hallway as my door was open and my bed faced the door. And I could see all of the hallway and the full-length mirror hanging opposite the stairs by a piece of string running along the top of it. Randomly, at the top of the mirror came off the wall while the bottom was still in position. The mirror then fell forward, the bottom having never touched the floor. Because it fell forward, it slid all the way down the stairs, smashing at the bottom. Oh, geez. My mom then screamed at me and my sisters for throwing the mirror. Now, what I find weird is that the string should have snapped, and so the mirror would have somewhat slid down the wall, the bottom of the mirror hitting the floor, and then would fall forward. It was like it pulled off the wall top first. I didn't find it freaky because it was just so strange. After that, any mirror or picture hung on that wall would fall off. My parents, of course, still didn't believe what I saw. No, they generally don't. I mean, a lot of people have trouble acknowledging that kind of stuff, and I think that's actually very detrimental. And we've talked about that many times on the show, and Don and I have talked about it. And it's important to acknowledge that reality for your children. I'm not, again, you want to keep your kids grounded in the world, so to speak, but at the same time, and I don't think it's necessarily done with malice or any kind of any kind of willfully stunting your child. But if a child is scared and they've experienced something scary, I don't think it behooves anyone to say, no, that didn't happen. No, you didn't see that. Because basically what you're saying is, don't trust what you're seeing, you're wrong. And again, I don't want to be redundant always on the show, but I think these kind of messages are incredibly important to acknowledge what your children are seeing and help them understand it as well as you can. And if you can't, then find someone that can. I know for some people, they just can't get out of their own paradigm. So how do you really walk your kid through something that you can't, wrap your head around? Well, perhaps there's other people or, someone you may know or be more qualified to have that discussion. But I think telling your kid that they're wrong is telling them not to believe their own senses, and it's shutting something off that's in them that is, valuable. It's important, and it's a gift. So helping them cope with it, I think, is the right answer. And, come to your own conclusions. I guess everybody's got to raise their kids the best way they know how, and nobody's doing it right all the time. It's just not possible. We all make mistakes, and we all do stupid things as parents, but, it's just, they are magical, amazing little people, but they are also magically amazing at pushing every button you've got. They just have, they have a talent for it. But it's just them trying to understand their own reality, I guess, is my opinion on that. So next one is, this experience is not for those who are scared of ghosts. So if you're scared of ghosts, you probably shouldn't even be listening to this show, to be honest with you. because it's a lot of what we discuss here on the portal. But I was a teen, and my mom and I got into an argument, and I told her not to close my door and turn out the light. She does it anyway, and I'm sitting under my blanket, and all of a sudden, it flies off of me. I pull it back on, and something hits my face. Oh, man. My little brother, 12 at the time, came in and asked if I was okay. I was screaming. He took a look at my face. On the right side was a maroon handprint, twice the size of mine. He got my mom, and she said to cut out the crap. Jeez. Oh, no. The next day in my algebra class, I was set up against the wall in my desk, and I felt something breathing on my neck. I looked above me, and the air vent was on the other side of the room. And that night, I fell asleep. At 1 a.m., I woke up feeling extraordinarily cold. I opened my eyes and could see my breath. Next thing I knew, my favorite stuffed animals grabbed out of my arms, and I started crying. The next thing I knew, my arms were being scratched by a fork. How a fork got up there, I don't know. I wore a jacket to color guard the next day, and the scratches that bled profusely the night before went away. No trace of scabs. The very next night, I was sleeping, and at about the same time as the night before, I felt cold again, and I could see my breath. I looked next to me and saw a long imprint on my bed. I put the blanket up over my head, and it flew off. Then my figure started to flip my hair. I checked out a lot of books, and they were all coincidental to me. For example, poltergeists usually revolve around one person. Second is that they usually occur between the ages of 10 to 20 years old. And lastly, the person it occurs to is usually either sad or angry. And I was both. That does sound possible. That sounds like it could very well be a poltergeist kind of activity. It's kind of funny, and maybe I didn't notice this before, but after reading those jokes, it's like the TFR chat went. So I love those of you that stuck with it, and perhaps it's getting late. I know. Again, we're broadcasting all over the world, so people have different times they got to get going. But I hope my dad paranormal jokes didn't chase people away. Oh, I'm sorry. If they did, I'm very sorry. It was not my intention. All right, so let's check out this one. So I do believe that one is possible. That it definitely fits the right criteria, as far as the largely agreed on idea that it targets a young female around the ages of 10 to I thought about 15, but apparently she had found about 20. Excuse me. I'm really pleased with the sound quality tonight, though. Oh, thank you, Mishi. I think it's pronounced Mishi. And TFR chat said, Brent, great show. Fret not. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, Daryl says it's 4:43 where he is. Dang. Well, Daryl, that's some real love there, brother. Thank you so much for being here and staying up all kinds of late with me. I appreciate that a bunch. I'm really thrilled you're here. And wherever you are, I know, I believe Mishi's from over in the UK there, so yeah, I know it's it's tough to be here at all times, but I'm sure glad you guys are. And if you're not able to catch the live show, don't worry. There's you can always check the replays, and I won't hold it against you. But I hope you check it out. One of the same. Yeah, Mishi's in London. Yep, 1144 there where Gemini is. Yeah, it is a good number. She's 111144. Look up the numerology to that Gemini. Do some searches. And that's something I do all the time. Whenever I see repetitive numbers like 333, 222, I go on Google and I type in what is the significance of, and then fill in the numbers. And a lot of people have numerology charts out there you can check out and see if something resonates with you. I've found some pretty cool things. Brent 55. So yeah, I mean, I found some cool messages in that I think seem to apply. And it's funny when you notice those repetitive numbers. It's numerology is what I'm talking about, Dawns, but you're right. There's gematria as well. But I do like some of the messages you find, and they sometimes can really resonate with you about what's going on And sometimes it's a really nice affirmation. So I always Google them, and I found some pretty cool messages in that. Maybe it's wishful thinking, maybe not. I don't know. Whatever you believe in, but I think there's something to it. Those kind of things wouldn't be around for as long as they have been if there wasn't anything to it. There's got to be some kind of resonance in there. But let's see. All right. This one is not too long. All right. So this happened to me when I was about 9 to 13 years old. That's quite a range. I'm 16 now. And me and my cousin had always been very close. She lived in a 2-story house, and she's 21 now and moved out, but when she was 18. And I stayed over at her house a lot when she did live when she still lived with her parents. And the upstairs of that house is absolutely freaky, especially Amber's room. That's her cousin's name, by the way. I could hear breathing sometimes when I was alone up there and always felt watched. One time when I woke up in the middle of the night when I was staying there, I swear I saw someone standing by me. My cousin was sleeping next to me, and Amber had the same experiences, and so did everyone else in that house. And I was always afraid to go up there alone, and I still am. But one time I had to go up there to grab some clothes that she had given me, and as I was walking down the stairs, her door slammed. I started to cry and fell down the rest of the stairs, trying to get downstairs as fast as possible. And I was the only one up there when this happened. Another time I was alone in the house babysitting Amber's brother, and when the ice on the fridge door just started to come out. Then at about 11 p.m., I heard the upstairs door slam. Her brother was scared because of all the noises, so I called my dad to come pick me up and him up as well. And my aunt and uncle and cousin still live there, but he refuses to go upstairs or sleep in the upstairs bedroom, and he's 9 years old now, but he never slept up there alone. As for me, I make sure I'm never alone in that house, especially upstairs. Did I mention that my cousin played with a Ouija board upstairs in her room? So that's, yeah, that might do it. She told me that after she played with it, she had a dream of a girl that used to live there that drowned in the bathtub. And every time she tried to put it away in her closet, the next day it would be on her bedroom floor, out of the box and everything. Yeah, that's a little creepy. That's all kinds of creepy there. Don't play with the Ouija boards unless you know what you're doing. It's, and again, I'm not disparaging the Ouija board. It can be a valuable tool to the person that knows how to use it and has, again, it's a channeling is what it is. So you have to have channeling ability, and everybody does to some degree, but some people are really tuned to that kind of stuff and will get some amazing responses or interaction with it. But there's other people that'll touch it and nothing will ever happen. But, just make sure that you're using it responsibly, I guess. It really concerns me. The Ouija board is recommended for ages 8 and up. It's like, again, and I've said this before, but who the hell wants their 8-year-old summoning spirits? It's like, why? Why? Ugh. It's great fun for all the kids. How many slumber parties started out that way? And then you get door slam, and then you get ice cubes coming out of your fridge door, and breathing on your neck. That's where it all starts, ladies and gentlemen. And, the whole dream of the child drowning could just be, here's the thing, and I've said this on the show many times, but I'm going to repeat it because I know we got a lot of new listeners. I'm not a big believer in the whole kid spirit thing. And in a nutshell, here's why. If there is anything good and just and divine in this universe, then when a child dies, something is going to come and take them home, whether it be an angel, whether it be a loved one, something is going to come and take that beautiful, pure spirit home. It's not going to be just left to linger. And I can't tell you, in all the years and years and years that I've researched the paranormal, how many stories, horrible stories, start with this little girl appeared in the house, and I heard giggling, and I bought her toys, and I was going to take care of her, and then it started getting scratches, and I was in a bad mood all the time, and then I just hated life. And it's like, well, and again, to repeat this again, here's the thing: any kind of predator has a method of predation, and usually that method of predation is incredibly efficient, and it has to be in order for it to be effective. Any kind of predator, you can't expend a bunch of energy in order to kill something, quote unquote, or attack something. I'll just say it that way, because not all negative attachments end up in death. But if there was something dark, like a demon or some other dark entity that wanted to take over someone, whether it's by possession, whether it's by draining their life force or whatever, they have to get you to surrender on some level. They have to create a surrender or an opening. And if you're an adult and you are a normal person, and especially if you're a parent, we are nearly genetically encoded to care for children. I mean, not everybody, and obviously there's a lot of really creepy, rotten people out there that do all kinds of just horrible things. But adults, a normal, healthy, psychologically sound adult will want to care for a child. They will want to protect it. It's just part of us, whether it comes from a genetic mandate to propagate the species or whatever, however you want to look at it. We want to care for children. So automatically, upon seeing a child and thinking there's some lost soul that needs protecting, what are you going to do? I'm going to try to take care of it. I want to help it. I don't want it to be lost and scared and lonely. That's just like the most horrible nightmare. So they open themselves up to it. Once they open themselves up to it, that's a surrender. That's an opening. So suddenly this cute little girl spirit in 1920s, sundress is, 8 feet tall with fangs and horns and, trying to shred you. You know what I mean? So it's my opinion. Now, I have heard from many psychics that yes, indeed, there are children spirits, and I guess that's possible. I don't know how. I don't know what circumstances would leave them stranded like that, but whatever the case may be. But most of these stories start out with children spirits and end with exorcisms. So just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. But that's my opinion on the whole children spirit thing. So whenever I hear a story, it starts out with having a child spirit in the house. It's like, oh, really? Are you sure about that? Really? You got a kid there? Really? All right. Tell me how that one ends. Anyway, let's get to this next one, as long as it's not too long. We've only got 2 minutes left. Oh, my God. You know what? Yeah, let me see how long it is. No, that's way, way, way too long. I can't read that. Oh, this one's weird. Is this one? Yeah, this is pretty short. All right, my story may seem unbelievable, but according to my parents, it's absolutely true. And as I recall, the story goes a little bit like this. It was a nice, typical day. My parents got home from the grocery store a little bit tired and decided to go and have a rest. And at this time, I was still a baby, about 8 months old. And they put me on the bed with them in the middle, to be exact. And they laid there just talking about what married couples talk about. And then all of a sudden, my mother noticed out of the corner of her eyes that I was being lifted from the bed. At this moment, she assumed it was my dad wanting to put me in the crib. And as she turned to face him and tell him to just let me stay there, she was shocked at what she saw. According to her, I was floating up on top of the covers. No one was holding me up or anything. She immediately woke up my father, who was on the other side of me, sleeping, and asked him if he saw what she was seeing. And at that moment, both of them were absolutely in shock of what was happening in front of their eyes. My mother then explained that as she was seeing this, she didn't know exactly what to do and just opted to put her hand in between me and the bed covers to see if maybe it was some kind of illusion. As she moved her hand from side to side, she saw that there was nothing, absolutely nothing, holding me up. Immediately, she grabbed me and pulled me up against her chest. I recall my parents telling me they didn't know what happened that day, but since then they haven't found an explanation for it. They don't want to go in believing in sorcery, but they haven't found any logical explanation for what happened. After I heard that story, sometimes I wondered that since little, if I had something to do with this weird occurrence, As for while I was growing up, I always saw things that I couldn't explain. Very bizarre, but definitely not a poltergeist. But I'm going to close the show with more of these great jokes. All right, are you ready? Here's some more really ones. All right, really lame ones, but they're funny. Where do the ghosts mail their letters? At the ghost office. That is just so bad. What kind of street do ghosts prefer to live on? A dead end. And what's a ghost's favorite fruit? Blueberries. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's tonight's Paranormal Portal. We'll be back tomorrow night with more, and Mr. Longbeard will be joining me. Stay tuned for Nikki Colombo's new show starting next, and later on, Jimmy Gene into the Microcosm. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, and we'll see you tomorrow night here on the Portal.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting...